in our birth chart, Chiron represents the wounds in which we heal in others but don't heal in ourselves. And so understanding your Chiron placement can help you understand where you need to heal worthiness blockages you may have and where exactly these worthiness blockages keep you limited from abundance in life. So in this video, I'm going to break down what it means to specifically have your Chiron in the sign of Aries so that you can understand this placement. Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Isabel, your spiritual rebel friend, and today we are talking about what it means to have your Chiron in the sign of Aries in your birth chart. In today's video specifically, I'm going to cover what Chiron is in our chart, what the Aries archetype represents, what it means to have your Chiron in Aries, and practical tips for applying this knowledge. So if you are someone who not only likes to take in the information of astrology, but know what to do with it once you discover that you have a Chiron in Aries, watch through to the end of this video where I'm going to share some tips for applying this knowledge and working through the wounds that may come up with having a Chiron in Aries. But before we do, be sure to book a reading in the link in the description below, where in 1 hour we can dive deep into any and everything about your astrological birth chart, whether that's Chiron, your Chiron return, which you are having right now if you're watching this video as of the publishing, as well as anything else in your birth chart and your personality type combination. So your Enneagram, your Myers-Briggs, your numerology, we can cover it all. Sky is the limit. Book a reading down below and check out my other offerings, including my astrology bundle, where you can dive into different astrological placements in your chart and learn more about each planetary placement you have. You can check out my Master Astrologer course, where I teach you how to become your own astrologer, and my ongoing coaching membership, monthly coaching for the stars. So first and foremost, what is Chiron? Chiron is not a planet, it is an asteroid that we can find in our birth chart. And it'll look like a circle with a K on it, or how I see it, it's a key, which is the key to healing. Chiron is known as the wounded healer. And what it represents, simply put, is the wounds that we heal in others but don't heal in ourselves. You can imagine with the story of Chiron, this idea of almost a medic on a battlefield who is going around tending to others' wounds, while they're at the same time have their own wounds that are causing them to bleed out, but they're not taking care of it. And so whatever sign Chiron is in our chart represents that wound we go about healing in others and tending to, but we are not healing within ourselves. The sign that your Chiron is in specifically tells you what archetype you have wounds associated with. So for example, if someone's Chiron was in Cancer, maybe they feel wounds associated with being nurtured. However, they seem to be the most nurturing people you know. So Chiron, at its root in many ways, this idea of having this wound that we heal in others but not ourselves, has a lot to do with worthiness. It tells us what we feel we are unworthy of giving ourselves, and yet at the same time we tell everyone else that they are worthy of. So working through your Chiron, understanding the sign your Chiron is in, as well as the house, tells you what the wounds are that you heal in others but not in yourself, and can also tell you what worthiness blockages may keep you limited. By not healing your Chiron, this could play out as feeling an emotional sense of woundedness. This could cause projecting our emotions onto others. This can cause us, simply put, because we're not feeling worthy, to become a blocker for our manifestations. So if you feel like there's certain manifestations that you've been working towards that haven't been coming through, it is possible it's because your Chiron wound that is causing unworthiness has not been fully healed. But given that it is something we heal in others, in many ways, Chiron can be a gift to the world. It is something that you can help others heal, truly, but we can only do so and truly do our best healing work when, of course, we heal that within ourselves. After all, a medic bleeding out on the battlefield trying to tend to others' wounds is eventually going to find that they have to take care of themselves in order to continue to heal others. So what is, as a brief summary, the Aries archetype at its essence? Aries, in the end, as the first sign of the zodiac, represents this energy of independence and initiation. As the first sign of the zodiac, they know no better. And so they are thrown into the world almost like that idea of a baby bird being thrown from the nest, and they're taught that they have to just figure it out. And so hence why when we were thinking about the Aries archetype, words that often come up are independence, but as well as bravery, courage, intensity, impulsivity, because they are the ram charging things head on. Also, the idea of the ram symbolism comes into play in the sense of that headstrong nature, charging head first into things. And so the Aries archetype represents independence as well as assertion, and in the negative, sometimes aggression. They truly do value the idea of charging things head on without thinking things through very much, hence why they also are said to be hot-headed. Aries represents this, in a sense, lack of thinking things through, because Aries sees that the best way to learn is by doing things and throwing themselves into the thick of it. They figure things out. So there's this naivety that is associated with Aries, and this ability to just figure things out because they know they are capable of getting through anything. And so Aries is independent, but it's also headstrong, intense. They pursue challenge. They're highly competent, capable. There's also this energy of naivety that also comes along with the Aries archetype. So now that you have that overview into the Aries archetype, what does exactly mean to have your Chiron, the wounded healer, in the sign of Aries? And quick note with this, if you're watching this video as of the publishing of it on roughly March of 2025, you've been having your Chiron return, which is extremely huge for you. And I will be publishing a whole separate video on what it means to have your Chiron return. But this energy is very prominent for you right now. Point being, with a Chiron and Aries in your birth chart, this is someone who has wounds associated with their independence. This idea of the ram being someone who just charges challenges and life head on from a place of naive innocence, but with a sense of inner strength. That whole archetype of taking life head on, being a student, is very, so to say, wounded within you. It is possible that in early years you felt that to have your own independence was not valuable. And so now you go through life encouraging other people to cultivate their own independence, to assert their needs, to follow their hearts, to just be imperfect and try your best. And yet at the same time, you feel you cannot give yourself that own grace. To allow yourself to be imperfect and just throw yourself into something without knowing the exact outcome or the exact way that you're going to accomplish it can be very challenging, because you feel, based off of your Chiron placement, that you cannot just try, so to say. You can't be the ram, you can't charge things head on, but others, they can. You encourage people to charge things head on, to take on challenges, and the fact that they are capable is something that you encourage. However, you yourself, you feel with a Chiron and Aries that you yourself are not very capable. There can be this fear of incapability or imperfection in many ways that comes along with having a Chiron and Aries, feeling like they are not allowed to take massive imperfect action, that everything they must do must be regimented, stable, structured, controlled. And so this impulsivity gets suppressed within yourself. And what can end up happening, though, is what I've noticed oftentimes, because Chiron creates a wound associated with the positive energies of Aries, this also potentially creates a negative outlook or expression of the archetype. Meaning that while the Chiron and Aries encourages others to be assertive, independent, impulsive, charge things head on, be the challenger, be bold, be brave, and at the same time they feel wound for this, they also then maybe express the unhealthy characteristics of Chiron, because this energy is still present in your chart. It's an energy that wants to be healed and embraced. And so instead, what maybe can happen for a Chiron and Aries is that they become, instead of assertive, aggressive. Instead of, so to say, healthily independent, hyper independent and isolating. So a Chiron and Aries has the potential to, if they are not healing this energy, they can express it in, so to say, negative means, in the sense that they feel isolated, they feel that they can't be supported, that they are independent, but not by choice, by default, that no one's going to support them. And also, though, at the same time, that they must use aggression and competition to get through certain means in their life. Overall, I would say the main wound associated with a Chiron and Aries is a sense of self and independence, because Aries, while it is not the first house, Aries is what created the first house. And so many of the first house themes can be found within Aries, which is, the phrase of Aries is I am. And so this is where we are born into the world and we discover our sense of self through independence. And so a Chiron in Aries can feel that they have this wound associated with independence, maybe feeling that they were never granted independence or that they are afraid of independence out of fear that they might not be capable of survival. And so they never cultivate that sense of individualized self-identity. So self-identity, sense of self, and independence, self and independence in the world can be very, very scary for these people. But leaning into the positive traits of Aries overall can be greatly healing and help you do your best work in healing wounds of independence, assertion, and in a sense, impulsivity in positive means in others. Not only is there a sign that your Chiron in Aries is in, but there's also a house. The sign tells you what qualities you feel wounded about but heal in others. The house that your Chiron in Aries is in tells you where in your life this wound is associated the most, because each archetype has subtle different nuances or ways it can be interpreted or ways it can be expressed. And the houses in can help us refine how exactly that shows up. For example, to go through them all briefly, Chiron in Aries in first house is going to have the most sense of identity wounds, self-identity wounds, feeling that they cannot be independent and own a bold, authentic, assertive expression, appearance, but they tell others they should be authentic and embrace independence. Whereas a Chiron in second house is going to feel that they shouldn't be impulsive with their spending or be more assertive with their finances or assertive for the sense of their self-worth. And yet these are qualities they tell others they can embrace. A Chiron in Aries in third house is going to feel that they cannot be assertive with their words and bold with their communication in their day-to-day life, but they tell other people they should be. A Chiron in Aries in fourth house feels that they cannot gain independence from their family and that they should not be assertive within their family, and yet they tell other people they should do the same. A Chiron in Aries in fifth house feels that they cannot be bold and intense and independent in their romantic life and in creative expression. They probably feel they can't make time for creative expression, but yet they tell others they should. A Chiron in Aries in fourth house feels that they cannot be independent in their day-to-day life, that they shouldn't seek for assertion or shouldn't use assertion in their day-to-day life, and they cannot be independent for the sake of their health. They can't be bold for the sake of their health, that they need to suppress their independence or need for independence, and this affects their health. A Chiron in Aries in seventh house feels that they can't be independent and assertive in their relationships. A Chiron in Aries in eighth house feels that they cannot be bold and independent in their intimate relationships where some form of resource is shared. A Chiron in Aries in ninth house feels that they should not be assertive with their personal beliefs or travel at all and believe that they are capable of experiencing the world without being harmed. A Chiron in Aries in 10th house feels that they cannot be assertive or bold in their career and in their career image. A Chiron in Aries in 11th house feels that they shouldn't be bold or assertive or independent in their community or pursue purpose in bold, purposeful ways. And a Chiron in Aries in 12th house feels that there are unconscious deep beliefs around the need for solitude and that they shouldn't be independent and seek solitude, and that to spend time focusing on your inner work is wrong and to try to reprogram your mind is wrong. Those are just general interpretations. There's so much that can be covered on that. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to do a whole video breaking down any of these Chiron and Aries in house placements, and I'll be sure to film about it. So now that you understand a bit about what it means to have your Chiron in Aries and a little bit in each house, what do you do with that information? And if you are also taking into account that you have your Chiron return, maybe this advice will also be helpful as well. Now, quick note, I do not have my Chiron in Aries. This is just what I would guess that someone needs to do based off of what I understand about this planetary placement and how I've worked through my own Chiron. First and foremost, asking yourself by looking to the past, what beliefs, wounds, or scary, not even so much traumatic, childhood experiences do I have associated with independence? Were there times in early years, which early years could be anywhere between 0 to 20, really, or even 25. In early years, what wounding associations do I have with independence? Maybe I went and wanted to go do something on my own as a kid and I was shamed for it. Maybe I felt like I was by default alone, and so I felt like independence was bad. Maybe I was not necessarily caring to date, so to say, when I got into my teen or young adult years and I was shamed for it. This isn't necessarily Black Moon Lilith where we're talking about shame, but there may be very much a wound associated with independence to be found in your early years. And if that's hard for you to do, start by working backwards. When was the last time you felt you were unworthy of independence? And that could be something so small or so big happening in your life. Also doing this with the energy of assertion. Where are my negative associations with assertion because aggression was displayed rather than assertion? What were times in my life where I felt that I could not be assertive about my needs or desires because I didn't want to be aggressive? What were the aggressive figures potentially in my life? Where do I think of aggression? How was I told in societal programming that aggression was bad and assertion was bad because it will be aggression? And also with that, how can I tell myself I am worthy of owning these traits? Which is, in the end, all Aries traits. I did mainly tap on the independence and assertion end of it, but there's other Aries traits as well. Those are just the key ones. But how can I tell myself I'm worthy of those? Can I catch myself when I'm telling myself I'm not allowed to be independent, or have a sense of self that is individualized, or go do my own thing, or assert my needs? When I have those moments that I feel wounded about these traits, how can I tell myself and affirm that I'm worthy of them? Is that simply by speaking up and saying, I need a timeout, I need to go do my own thing? Or maybe is that telling yourself you're worthy of these things? Is that making time to be independent? Or is that even really reflecting on, introspecting, and identifying what your sense of self really is? And with that as well, I would say that there is maybe a proactive side to this as well, where you can truly, simply put, heal your Chiron potentially by just focusing on embracing the traits. How can you be more independent? How can you be more assertive? How can you be more of a potentially a leader? How can you allow for impulse? How can you allow yourself to take massive imperfect action? The Fool in the tarot is really, I feel, a great representation of this energy, especially with the case of Chiron, specifically in Aries. And the Fool is the idea of naivety, but understanding that the path ahead is long, but taking the first step is necessary. And that the fool who doesn't know any better and yet somehow survives. But there's this unknown concept to it. And yet the fool seems to be blissfully unaware of the unknown. They don't know that there is danger, and yet they seem to just blissfully move ahead. So how can you allow for that idea potentially of naivety, in the sense of, I don't know exactly how X is going to work, whether that's driving in traffic, ordering a coffee, making a life-changing decision. How can I allow for the fact that I don't know how this is going to work out, but I can get through anything? Really, a Chiron in Aries really showing and proving to yourself your resiliency, and more so your capability, is very, very important. But it's very important that that capability is coming into play with your sense of self, because in the end, your capability means nothing, so to say, unless you're taking this action in ways that are aligned with your sense of self and with your heart. If you're proving to yourself that you can take fearless action from in alignment with what your heart desires, then that is what capability is worth to you. Whereas some people maybe think of this idea of capability as, I need to struggle, I need to self-sacrifice, and that's not necessarily the root theme of Chiron and Aries. This is about you showing that you can follow your heart and take leaps of faith in alignment with who you are. So Chiron and Aries, let me know in the comments below, did this video help you understand what it means to have your Chiron in the sign of Aries? What house is it in? How would you interpret that? Did my small interpretation resonate for you? And do you want me to continue this series talking about Chiron through the signs? Because I have procrastinated on it for a long, long time. And I would love to hear from you guys if you want me to continue this series. If you so, let me know what Chiron you want to hear about next, and I'll be sure to film all about it. And be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and stay tuned for more videos. If you have any more questions that you want to dive deeper into about your specific chart, book a reading down below where we can dive deeper into any and everything in just 1 hour. Sky's the limit, seriously, is what I say about these readings. So learn more down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, my name's Isabel. From my heart to yours, namaste.